Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about the new movie, Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire. If you end up enjoying this video, please consider liking and subscribing. That way I don't get possessed by a ghost. The synopsis is as follows. The Spangler family returns to the iconic New York City firehouse where the original Ghostbusters have taken ghostbusting to the next level. When the discovery of an ancient artifact unleashes an evil force, Ghostbusters new and old must unite to protect their home and save the world from a second ice age. So without further ado, let's get into the 6 things that make a movie great. 1. The plot. I believe this movie takes place 2 years after Afterlife, where now the Spangler family operates out of the firehouse in New York City. And they do ghost busting on the daily. Through some mumbo jumbo, Ray ends up acquiring an artifact that houses a very powerful ghost. And as they attempt to capture it, things start going haywire and puts everyone, including the world, in danger. Wouldn't that be a nice movie? I'd like that. Instead, this movie spends about 10 minutes of its runtime ghost busting. There's some ghost busting right at the beginning, and then there's about an hour and 10 minutes of drama between the family, drama between Phoebe and this girl Ghost, this stupid and cheesy subplot of the mayor of New York City saying the Ghostbusters can't bust ghosts and Phoebe's too young to bust ghosts, so she gets benched, but instead of following the rest of the family that's doing ghost busting, we're benched with Phoebe and watch her do nothing. And then the big bad comes into play for about 5 minutes, and then it's over. It's done. That's the movie. And I can't tell you how disappointed and frustrated I was by the end of this film. When I go to watch a Ghostbusters movie, I expect it to be about busting ghosts. It feels like the movie's lost the plot and the whole reason why people like these movies. I think this movie definitely misplaced who its main protagonist should have been, and it caused this film to have massive pacing issues and really not be that enjoyable altogether. So for me, plot gets a thumbs down. 2 is family friendliness. Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire is rated PG-13. There's a mild bit of profanity, a pretty decent amount of sexual dialogue and innuendos and jokes, a couple scary moments, and very minimal action, including very minimal ghost busting. And in order to be objective, I have to mention the relationship between Phoebe and the ghost Melody. Now, while nothing explicitly happens in the movie to suggest that they are attracted to each other, it is somewhat alluded to, and that's the vibe that me and my friends got while watching this film. I did some research to try to find out what the intent was. It came back unclear, but pretty much said the same thing that I just did. It's alluded to, but not made clear. The rest of the content in this movie is pretty tame, so use your discretion, but for me, family friendliness gets a 50-50. 3 is acting and script. Oh, buckle your seatbelts, folks, because this one's a mess. McKenna Grace is decent as Phoebe. They chose her to be the main protagonist, so she's on screen for most of the movie, but it just doesn't feel like she has that much range. Her attitude and acting level are pretty just flat and monotone the entire film, so I wasn't that impressed. With Bill Murray, they basically treated him like another cameo, even though he cameoed in Afterlife, which felt weird and like it didn't make any sense. Finn Wolfhard literally has like 5 lines in this movie and takes a huge back seat, which I think was a huge mistake. Paul Rudd and Carrie Coon, who I thought their dynamic really worked in the first film, take a back seat in this one as well. Logan Kim's acting performance is atrocious, and Celeste O'Connor, for some reason, they changed her from being this grounded girl that is a good side character to Finn Wolfhard to being this over-the-top valley girl that is just dramatic and dumb. I don't know what happened between Afterlife and this movie, but that 2 years did a lot to all these characters, and I think they went the wrong direction. Also, Kumail Nanjiani, I don't think he's that funny, but I don't know how much of it is his poor acting performance versus the absolutely terrible script. The worst part about this script is that it thought it was so funny, but it really wasn't. It was just a bunch of really fast-paced, shallow dialogue that meant nothing, and it really thought it had a bunch of zingers, but they fell short, and the audience didn't find it funny. So for me, acting and script get a thumbs down. 4 is character development. Even though Phoebe is the main character, she doesn't get any character development in this movie. The only character development I really saw that was half-hearted attempt was Mr. Gruberson trying to fit into this family as the dad figure to these kids. They referenced it maybe 3 times throughout the film, and it wasn't a solid subplot, but to me it would have been a much stronger subplot than the whole friendship relationship thing between Melody and Phoebe. I'm not going to waste any more time here. You don't care about any of these characters, you don't care if they live or die, and at the end of the day it's shallower than a kiddie pool. For me, character development gets a huge thumbs down. 5 is visuals and CGI. The CGI in this movie is fine, but there's not much of it because there's not much ghost busting going on. And visually, there's not much to write home about. There's not a whole lot of creative visuals going on in this movie, not much to keep your attention. Part of the reason why I enjoy these movies is because you're wondering, what ghosts are going to come out? What can they do? What's their weird, quirky thing? And in this movie, there just wasn't a ton of that. While it didn't distract, there just wasn't much going on here. So for me, visuals and CGI get a 50-50. And 6 is rewatchability. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire clocks in at just under 2 hours long. And boy, oh boy, does this one drag on forever. And it's pretty easy to tell why. A Ghostbusters movie that doesn't do much ghost busting? Man, they missed the heart and soul of these movies. There's no camaraderie going on. The family dynamic is completely missing, and this movie is boring and just drags on forever. If this is the future of this franchise, they should just stop now while they're ahead. I will never be watching this movie again. Rewatchability for me gets a thumbs down. With all these areas considered, I have to give Ghostbusters Frozen Empire a 2 out of 10. Sadly, there's not a whole lot of positive things to say here. Paul Rudd and Bill Murray, though barely in this movie, do a decent job, and having a new main antagonist would have been interesting if he lasted longer than 5 minutes. The rest of this movie is an absolute mess. Bad acting, no character development, major pacing issues, terrible and unfunny script, and most of all, a huge lack of ghost busting. What a disappointment for everyone who wanted to buy into this franchise with Afterlife. So with all that in mind, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire is absolutely not worth spending your time or money going to see in theaters. And quite honestly, it may not be worth it to see in streaming platforms either. Thank you so much for watching. If you've seen Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, please let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. As always, I appreciate your love and support, and I'll catch you guys and gals in the next one.